What is going on, everybody? It is Saturday night, and that could only mean one thing. It is Saturday night's main event. 24 hours after a very boring SmackDown. Man, that show was not fun last night. WWE tonight delivered 2 hours in the same venue in Montreal at the Bell Center. We are 1 week out now from the Royal Rumble. And WWE went out tonight and they delivered what I think top to bottom was the best installment of Saturday night's main event since they rebooted the show back in 2024. So, and again, maybe it's low praise. I can't really think back to many of these shows that I would say were, outstanding or anything like that. But we are a week out from the main show, which is the Rumble. That's the bigger of the two shows. We didn't have a large card tonight. And in fact, one of the matches they promoted never actually technically was a match. But I do think top to bottom, it was the strongest Saturday night's main event that they've done so far. We do have a new number one contender for the WWE Championship that we were promised tonight. We would find out who Drew McIntyre's opponent would be at the Royal Rumble. It was either going to be Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, Trick Williams, or Damian Priest. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I said, this show is in Montreal. And then the Royal Rumble next weekend is in Riyadh, two places where Sami Zayn happens to have a very large fan base. The people love him in these two places. And I don't see this being the WrestleMania main event, so it would only make sense that Sami Zayn would get a big win here in Montreal. The last time they were here for like a major event, Sami Zayn challenged for the WWE Championship, and it didn't work out too well for him. But tonight he was able to pick up the win, which means he will get another crack at the title in Riyadh next Saturday. They had what I thought was a good four-way. That was the main event of the show here. Not my favorite thing on the show, but I thought that it was a good match. And it was the first time that we saw Trick Williams in a major main roster match here in WWE. You would never even know that he was only called up a month ago to the main roster. He has just fit like a glove on that SmackDown brand. He fit right in there with Randy Orton and Sami and Priest. He was more over than Damian Priest was. So I like the main event. And as predictable as the finish was, it is the right match to be doing. Predictable does not always mean bad. That was the correct outcome. Although there was one thing that surprised me about that match, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Cody Rhodes and Jacob Fatu, they do not like each other. We saw that on SmackDown last night. That was the best part of SmackDown, was the face-to-face interview with Cody and Fatu. That got me hyped up to see this match. First time ever, one-on-one. The bell never rang. These two came out there, they opened the show, and they just brawled all over the building. I even wrote in my notes, because you guys know how much of a fan I am of the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation. When people actually make use of the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation. And unfortunately, and this goes for AEW as well, but especially in WWE, rarely, if ever, do they fully take advantage of that stipulation. This was not a Falls Count Anywhere match, but you would watch it and you would think that it was. And they actually made better use of it if it was a Falls Count Anywhere match than most actual Falls Count Anywhere matches. They were brawling all over the place. And it went exactly the way that I told you it would when we did the predictions the other week, where I said, there's not going to be a winner here. They're not going to want to beat Cody Rhodes. Cody is their guy. They had to be dragged kicking and screaming just to beat him in 3 stages of hell. And he's coming off that loss. You think they're going to beat him again? And then you got Jacob Fatu, who this was his first match back in a few months. They don't want to beat him either. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to try to do a finish that protects both of these men in some way. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. But even though the bell never rang and we never got an official match, this was the hottest thing on the entire show. Fans were super into this. Both guys beating the hell out of each other. What's not to like? So then we have the women's tag team titles. They were on the line. I enjoyed that match. That was a very good match. And then we had AJ Styles. And we had Shinsuke Nakamura. Not bad for a match that we got on 24 hours notice. Couldn't imagine, why would Nick Aldis be inviting AJ Styles to SmackDown last night? Styles just announced on Monday that he was accepting the challenge that Gunther put out for him to get a rematch at the Royal Rumble. But he was going to put his career on the line. And remember, on Monday, AJ spoke to his wife and told Adam Pearce, I'm doing it. So he got the invitation from Nick Aldis to be there on SmackDown last night. And he steps aside and he says, well, that's, I wanted to ask you about that, but that's not the only reason I invited you here to Montreal. He steps aside, and then we see Shinsuke Nakamura walk in. And Nakamura was questioning his wisdom in putting his career on the line, but said, well, if you're going to do this, then why don't you and I have a match? That's how we got this. It was all set up very quickly. There was no sort of hint at it or build or anything like that. It was just two guys who have obviously a history together, going back even predating WWE. And none of their matches in WWE really stand out too much. Their matches actually got progressively better, coming off the very disappointing WrestleMania match they had 8 years ago. But they went out there tonight in what they were promoting as the last time ever. Final time, one-on-one, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. And they had an excellent match. They had a fucking killer match tonight. Crowd wasn't exactly hot throughout the entire thing the way they were for John Cena and AJ Styles, but you can understand it because it's Shinsuke Nakamura. And let's just be honest, okay? When was the last time that Nakamura was portrayed as anyone of any great relevance on that roster? It's been a while. They dust him off every now and then like a toy on a shelf when they want to play with him, and then they put him back on the shelf. That is his role in WWE. They don't do a whole hell of a lot with him, and he's been there for a long time. But for tonight, they kind of turned back the hands of time, even the gear that Nakamura came out wearing. And they dialed it back, and they went out there, and they just had a great fucking wrestling match. Back and forth, lots of near falls, lots of knees to the face, including one in particular that I thought Nakamura silly, legit. No, they had a killer match. And you knew how it was going to go because it's just building to AJ's match with Gunther next weekend. But I'm so happy the two of them had the chance to go out there and have the kind of match they had tonight, considering some of the weaker matches that they've had in their WWE stint. So when you put all that together, again, it's not exactly a big card. But for what we got here on this show, I thought it was a very, very good show. And the best one they've done so far in the last 2 years. Certainly a hell of a lot better than whatever the hell it was I watched last night. This is your Saturday night's main event review. It is January 24th, 2026. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for being with me here on a Saturday night. I know many of you were with me last night for the SmackDown review. We got the sound off coming up tomorrow. We got a lot of shit to talk about. Oh, do we ever. But tonight, we're talking this show. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. So if you want to get them on in, I will be reading your messages. Let me know what you thought of the show tonight. And any other thoughts or predictions or anything you have for the Royal Rumble, get them on in. We'll hang out a little bit later on. All these special donation amounts are in the description down below. Down where? Down here. And again, we'll do some Be the Booker if we hit the likes goal, which means we got to bring the wheel out. This is the new thing now that we do. This will determine what the number of likes is, the minimum number of likes that we need live during the stream in order to do Be the Booker. Let's see what it is. 361. We should be able to do that blindfolded and standing on our head. 361 likes. We hit 361, we will be the Booker. Now it's on you. You guys got to go out and make it happen. Show kicked off with Stephanie McMahon at the podium, where normally we would see Joe Tessitore and sometimes Jesse Ventura, but neither of them were there tonight, and Stephanie McMahon was there. And she told us that Joe Tess was stuck at the airport in Detroit due to weather issues. I think most people, unless you are all the way out west, are dealing with some severe weather issues. This weekend, in fact, here in New York, we're only a few hours away from the snow moving in. I don't even know what the projections are. I've heard, half a foot. I've heard as much as 16 inches of snow. I don't even know what to expect. I just know it's fucking cold outside. And whatever falls is going to freeze, and it's not going to go away for a while. So I know that. But wherever you are, in all seriousness, please just don't go out if you don't have to, but just stay safe. Because in some places, like what they're predicting is ridiculous. And Stephanie here even said, like, outside, I guess, where they were in Montreal, it was -7. I think with a wind chill of -20. So, not good. But I'll be inside tomorrow recording the sound off. Hopefully my internet doesn't go down. So then she asked Montreal, "Are you ready?" She said this in English, and then she did it in French. I forgot to mention, because I think this started last month, there is a new theme song for Saturday night's main event. They have done away with the classic stuff. And we are now stuck with Quavo as the new theme for this show. I think they have relegated Obsession to like some of the bumpers where they put like the preview graphics up. I think it's still in there, but it is no longer used as the intro for this show. So they're already starting to phase out some of the retro elements, which kind of sucks. Like the turnbuckles and all that kind of stuff. Now, look, they have kept the red, white, and blue ring ropes. And they still have the old school Madison Square Garden microphones that drop from the ceiling when Lillian does her announcements. So they've kept some of the retro elements, but they're already phasing other aspects of it out. So they open with Cody Rhodes against Jacob Fatu. And we start with a shirtless Fatu. He is walking through the backstage area, cutting a promo on Cody as he makes his way through the back, through the gorilla position, out to the ring, and to a very strong reaction. I was asking the question last night, what should we expect as far as the reaction to Fatu compared to the reaction for Cody? I was figuring definitely more positive for Fatu than it would be for Cody. And that's pretty much the way that it worked out here. Cody entered next. He was wearing the skull mask that he wore to WrestleMania. More of a mixed reaction, mostly positive. It was mostly positive, but it was more of a mixed reaction. So Fatu jumped Cody as he climbed the ropes for this, the second part of his theme song where he goes, "Whoa," for the second time, right? And everyone's getting ready to do it. And before everybody could do the whoa, Fatu is in the ring. He kicks Cody's legs out from underneath him and ruins it. And he got booed. Fans actually booed that they couldn't do the second whoa in the song. And so the two of them started brawling. Charles Robinson, he got knocked over right away. The bell has not rung yet at this point. So there is no match underway. So officials flooded the ring. They tried to calm things down. And then security arrived to pull them apart. Even though, they could have just rung the bell because these two were scheduled to have a match. We could just ring the bell, let them fight. But no, can't do that. So Fatu did a step-up leap at one point because Cody was outside. He was being pulled away by the security geeks. And they're all piled up outside, and Fatu's in the ring, and it's like, oh, gee, I wonder what he's going to do. And he goes to do the step-up, I don't know if it was like a moonsault, right? Not a cannonball. But he kind of slipped a little bit. He lost his footing. And he hit the move, but the idea was that he would hit Cody, and then everybody would fall down. Well, he didn't come anywhere close to Cody. He landed on some of the security geeks, but everybody fell down anyway. So Cody threw Fatu back in the ring, only to clothesline him right back out over the top. He landed a suicide dive. That sent Fatu sailing over the announce desk. And then Cody posed on top of the desk, and it was just mass chaos here. So Fatu tried to exit through the crowd. Cody followed him, and he also got backdropped onto the concrete. Cody got up. He tossed him into some equipment cases that were sitting nearby. So Fatu dumped Cody into the where the lower bowl seats were in the building, and they start fighting up the stairs. They are fighting their way up the staircase towards the concourse where all of the concessions are. And this took a little while, but eventually they make their way out onto the concourse. So now they're you see the merch tables, you see where the food stations are, and Cody grabbed a few different garbage cans. He was bouncing them off some of these security gigs. There was actually one in particular that was kind of funny, where it was almost like a cartoon, where he took this, plastic garbage can and basically bounced it right off of his head. So he's knocking him down like pins in a bowling alley. Jamie Noble is there. He's begging them to stop. Fatu starts choking Cody, and there was one poor security guard who comes over, and he's yelling at them, or he's trying to tell them, save it for the Rumble. Save it for the Rumble. Save it for the Rumble. And for his troubles, Fatu delivered a Uranagi through a nearby merch table. And so that was the end of that guy. So they briefly fought over to where one of the food stations were. And I was kind of hoping they would go like behind there and start throwing food at each other or something. But this is where like I'm watching this going, man, I know the bell hasn't even rung yet. Technically, there is no match, but this is a better Falls Count Anywhere match than most Falls Count Anywhere matches in WWE, where they're almost afraid to go to like different parts of the building. Unfortunately, that's where it ended. And at that point, they took the brawl back into the arena. Nick Aldis, I noticed Nick Aldis was there. So now he's among all of the security people that are trying to get things under control here. So they end up on some boxes. And there's another security geek who got in their way. And the two of them grab him. And they send him flying backwards onto the waiting pile down below of all the other security geeks waiting to catch him. All of a sudden, Drew McIntyre appears. A wild Drew McIntyre shows up. And he did what 20 different security guards were unable to do. He was able to calm the situation. And the way in which he calmed the situation was he grabbed Jacob and he shoved him backwards off the boxes that they were standing on. And Fatu went crashing through one of the tables down below. So that was the end of Jacob Fatu. And as far as Cody is concerned, he gives Cody a low blow. And he sets him up for what ended up being actually a pretty good-looking jackknife powerbomb through one of the other tables down below. It actually kind of reminded me of the bump that Eric Bischoff took at the Great American Bash when Kevin Nash powerbombed him off the stage. And, Bischoff had a farther distance to fall because he was being powerbombed by a 7-foot man off the stage that night. But it just kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So it was a good bump there for Cody, and that was it. Both men were taken out, and Drew McIntyre finally was able to do what nobody else could do. He put an end to this. Made his way through the crowd, back down to ringside into the ring, and he just sort of reveled in all of the chaos. And then backstage after this, Kathy Kelly caught up with McIntyre, and she said that he owed everyone an explanation. He said that it was a statement to everybody on the roster. If you want to run your mouth or you want to come near me or my title, that's what's going to happen. So when I did my predictions, that's why I couldn't pick a winner. I said, I don't think anybody's winning this match. I at least thought there would be a match. I thought there would be a bell, and they would have some kind of match, and then eventually it would end up in the crowd, and either they would be counted out or it would be a no contest. There'd be some kind of big bump in the crowd that would take both of them out. And I feel like we saw that once before with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, but that's how this would end. And that way, neither man has to lose. And then they're both in the Royal Rumble next weekend, so they could just carry all this hatred over into the Rumble. So the only thing different that they did here was they just never rang the bell. So technically, there was no match. But I thought that what they did here, though, was fine. It was fun. I thought it was a very chaotic way to open the show, a hot way to open the show. And they did what they wanted to do. I mean, they spared either man from taking a loss here, so we knew that was going to be the case. But I didn't feel like I was cheated out of anything because this went long enough, like this dragged on long enough where it felt like a match. But at the end of the day, it's like as long as they give it a proper amount of time. It started at ringside, right? They were fighting over by the announce desk after they got out of the ring. They were in the crowd for a little while. They went up the stairs. They were on the concourse. They came back out. So I don't know what the total amount of time maybe this was, 12 minutes, something like that. Would I have liked to have seen an actual proper match between them that would have gone 15 minutes? Yes. And I hope we get it. I still hope we get it. They may not want to do it because, again, they're so afraid to beat people. So we may not even get it. But I didn't really feel cheated out of anything. Now, if they would have fought for like 5 minutes and been separated, that would have been fucking terrible. But I thought what we got here, it was nice and nice chaotic way to open the show. And as far as the Drew McIntyre interference, you would watch this and you would think, boy, we must be getting a triple threat match soon. Now, the rumors are that Drew McIntyre is going to walk into WrestleMania as the WWE champion, which I'm fine with. But right now, according to Bodyslam.net, the plan is to do Cody and Drew one-on-one at WrestleMania, which I think would be fucking ridiculous. You do a triple threat match. If you're going to go that route, stick Jacob in there. I know WrestleMania is still a few months away. Stick Jacob in there. I'd be okay with them doing a triple threat match. At least it would add a different element than just doing Cody and Drew again for the 5th time or the 6th time since WrestlePalooza. To just run that match back again one-on-one when we just had 3 stages of hell would be fucking terrible. And after what we saw tonight, things are set up perfectly if they could drag it out that long to do a triple threat. Now, how do you, let's say Cody goes on to win, not the Rumble, but let's say he wins the Chamber and earns the right to challenge for the championship. You'd have to come up with some reason why Jacob would be inserted. And we still don't know how that storyline, by the way, is going to play out with who attacked him a few months ago. But this was certainly set up to make you want to see all 3 of them in the ring together, and I would be totally fine with that being the WrestleMania match. But for the love of God, do not give me another Cody and Drew match one-on. You cannot do that at WrestleMania when you have already given that to us so many times, and you just did really 3 matches in one. If you want to count, you can count 3 stages of hell as 3 separate matches. You're going to run that back again one-on-one at WrestleMania? With what stipulation? What are you going to do? Hell in a Cell? You already gave it to us in a cage. We don't need Hell in a Cell. What can you do? You add someone else to the mix. Hell, maybe Jacob walks out of WrestleMania with the title. I'd be fine with that. We had Rhea Ripley and Io Sky defending the women's tag team titles against Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez, the ladies of the Judgment Day. So the heels got heat on Io for a while here early in this match. Liv threw Io around with some of the Three Amigos suplexes. But again, Io kicked out, and Rhea's on the apron. She's dying to get that hot tag. So finally, Io's reaching for the tag, and Roxanne was able to hold her back, and she starts stomping on Io's ankle. Io countered with a roll through into a double stomp. So we got 2 hot tags, actually, at the same time. Liv Morgan tagged in, and she was trying to avoid this, but it was inevitable. Rhea Ripley did manage to get the tag. So we had old rivals now in the ring together with Rhea and Liv. And immediately Rhea starts throwing her around. She hit a fall-away slam before drop-kicking Morgan clear across the ring. So Ripley goes for Riptide. Liv counters into a code breaker. And Ripley, she caught her, though, and she picked her up for a razor's edge. Morgan, though, was able to wiggle out of it. She tagged in Roxanne. Ripley, though, headbutted Liv anyway, and then booted Roxanne down to the mat. Now, later on, Rhea was able to down Morgan with a razor's edge. Io basically punctuated things with a missile drop kick, and Roxanne was able to sneak into the... She literally just snuck right past Rhea to break up the pin attempt. So Perez went for an around-the-world head scissors and ended up spiking Rhea. Rhea took this bump right on top of her head and rolled out to the floor. Io tagged in with a prone Liv Morgan in the corner, and she charged in for the bullet train knees. Liv moved out of the way, though, and hit, I guess, I wrote spinning crucifix slam, I guess is what you would call it, the best way I could describe it. Didn't work. She only got a 2 count out of it. So with Ripley on the outside, Perez went for a sunset bomb. Io, though, countered with a kick to the face. And then went up top. She was going to go for the over-the-moonsault. Perez, though, got her feet up. And then she hit Pop Rocks. And she had her dead to rights. She had Io beat right in the middle of the ring. The referee stops the count before 3. Because the spot was that Rhea Ripley was going to slide back into the ring and break up the pin. Except Rhea was late. Simple as that. Rhea missed her cue. She was late, so it looked terrible. So, and like Io tried to get a shoulder up, but clearly he was late, and the referee had to hold up. So, That spot got botched, but Rhea tagged in. She hit Roxanne with a headbutt, and then she put her down with Riptide. Io tagged in, hit the over the moonsault, wet from the pin. But before the referee could count 3, right, Rhea Ripley is standing in the ring. She's watching, right? They're about to win the match. All of a sudden, Raquel Rodriguez is at ringside. She must have been hiding under the ring because she's just standing there. On the outside, opposite the hard cam, she reaches in. She yanks Rhea's legs out from under her. Rhea then lands on top of the referee just before the referee could count 3. So she got Io outside, did Raquel, and she ended up hitting a powerbomb on a hard powerbomb too. She just fucking powerbombed the shit out of her right on the floor outside. Before Raquel could do any more damage, though, we hear Stephanie Vicair's music and outruns the women's world champion. She's healed. No walking boot. She wasn't limping to the ring. She ran down to the ring and she attacked Raquel, knocked her over the barricade into the crash. Yeah, she stood on top of the barricade, did Stephanie, and she dove off the barricade onto Raquel. They had very limited space here to do anything because the fans were kind of like right on top of them. So Stephanie dives off the barricade and in like the weakest, safest way possible, like Raquel catches her and then very, very gently falls down to the ground. Again, they didn't have a lot of room to kind of maneuver out there. But anyway, off they went. Meanwhile, in the ring, Perez tried to steal one by pinning Io, but she kicked out. So she tagged in Liv. Liv rushes into the ring. She's like, tag me, tag me. So she tags in and she hits Oblivion, but she never saw Rhea Ripley blind tag herself into the match. So after she drops Io, who had a pretty good sell on the Oblivion, Ripley nailed her with a Riptide and then stacked her up as only Rhea can and got the pin to retain the women's tag team titles. That Rhea miscue where she got there late, that was really that was kind of the main thing that stands out about this match. That was like, yeah, that didn't look good. I mean, look, there were some moments where it got a little ugly in there, but honestly, I really liked this match. I thought this was a very strong match. It was never boring. It was never slow. They got some good near falls out of it. The cardinal sin of that women's, I hated that women's match last night. Okay, they had a 3-way tag team #1 contenders match. And it was Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, Nia Jackson, Lash Legend, and Julia and Kiana James. And they gave the win to Julia and Kiana, but I thought the match was so boring and slow. And I talked about like they had another one of these on NXT on Tuesday that was infinitely better and more exciting on NXT. And then you watch SmackDown last night, right, which is supposed to be the A show, the main roster show, and it's like they're like wrestling in slow motion, and I'm like, what's going on here? So this was just like a 180 from what we got on. Like they were sleeping through the match last night. I don't know what was going on, but this match here was all action from start to finish. High energy, all action. I thought this was very good. So I enjoyed it. And great to see Stephanie back already. I thought maybe she'd be out for a little bit longer. I don't expect to see her in the Rumble next week because why would she be in the Royal Rumble? But there was talk that maybe she wouldn't even be back until closer to the Elimination Chamber. So the fact that she was able to go out there and get physical tells me she's cleared and she's ready to go. So that's a good sign. And now Rhea and Io will defend the women's tag team titles. I don't know when. They haven't announced a date. But they will be defending it next against Kiana James and Julia, whenever that may be. But first, all these women are going to be in the Royal Rumble next weekend. So after this, we had, for the final time, one-on-one, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Earlier today, AJ Styles tweeted this: I had some gear made for the Rumble, but I have decided that it's a perfect fit for my match with Nakamura tonight. And that gear turned out to be, he was wearing a mask on his way down to the ring. And we were told on commentary that this was the first time that AJ was wearing a mask to the ring in 10 years. The last time that AJ Styles wore a mask, or maybe that mask, I don't know, but the last time he wore a mask to the ring, we were told, 10 years ago, that would have been Wrestle Kingdom. That would have been right before, weeks before he debuted in the Royal Rumble in WWE. It was against Shinsuke Nakamura. There was Wrestle Kingdom 10, which turned out to be, for each of them, in both cases, their final match. Their final singles match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it was against each other, and it was a fucking great match. Still to this day, the best match those two ever had against each other. And so now here we are, full circle. 10 years later, AJ comes out, mask is on, him and Nakamura in the ring. One more time. Nakamura came out after this, and he was shirtless. He was wearing he's got this red outfit, and it's what he used to wear when he first debuted in WWE. He's probably wearing that in New Japan too. But this is like what he was wearing in like the NXT days, the black and gold days, and when he first hit the main roster. So there was a lot of throwbacks here. On commentary, Michael Cole pointed out that AJ once led the Bullet Club and Nakamura once led Chaos in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we got some technical exchanges early on here from these two. Back and forth. They locked up again. Nakamura was pushing Styles to the ropes. So he backed off at the referee's request. And Styles did the Bullet Club gun gesture. Nakamura did the come on. He did the come on. And so AJ came towards him. So Styles ended up sending him outside, jumped over the ropes onto him. Later on, Styles went for a Styles clash. Nakamura, though, was having none of it, and he countered out with a running knee strike. Nakamura set up for a Kinshasa. Styles, though, dodged it, pulled him down for a calf crusher. And Nakamura was screaming in pain, and he was reaching for the ropes, trying to crawl for them. But he was locked in this hold for a while. And I mean a while. Like it felt like he was in this hold forever. And it was to the point where I really think that it kind of killed it as a potential finish now for Styles to use in his match with Gunther. He probably will use it. But I just think we just saw Shinsuke Nakamura here. He was locked in this calf crusher forever. And he refused to tap. He would not tap. Now, if Shinsuke Nakamura is in this hold for fucking 5 minutes and refuses to tap, how am I supposed to believe that Gunther is going to tap to the calf crusher? So that's the only thing that kind of like made me go, I would not have. If the idea was that he was going to struggle in it and then eventually counter out or get to the ropes, he shouldn't have been in it for that long. Because that was the hold that AJ used in the match with Gunther a few weeks ago. And I assumed it was going to play a role in their rematch as well. But now it kind of like, I don't know, it took a little something away from it, I think. So Nakamura countered out into a triangle. Styles lifted him up, though, for a Styles clash. Shinsuke got out of it. And Styles then hit this massive knee strike right to Nakamura's chin and just knocked him senseless. And you know what it made me think of? I saw this spot, and it made me think of Money in the Bank 2011 and the step-up knee that CM Punk gave to John Cena. I don't know if you remember, but in that match, Cena was up against the ropes. He was kind of hanging in the ropes. And Punk, he does this thing where he'll do like a quick step-up knee. He did one of them, and then he did a second one. And I think it was the second one. It connected flush. And not even on the chin. Like, he fucking kneed him in the face, like in the nose. And they showed it in slow motion as they did here. And that's exactly what this reminded me of. Like, man, I would not at all be shocked if he legitimately got his bell rung. But if he didn't, they made it look damn real. So that was a hell of a knee strike there. So Styles picked him up. Two of them start trading forearms. Styles hit the Pele kick. That opened him up, though, to a Kinshasa to the back of the neck. And Nakamura then went to the corner. He was going to try for a proper Kinshasa. But then as he came out of the corner, his knee gave out on him. Because AJ was working the knee, the leg, the calf. He's been working that now for most of the match. So Styles hit one of his own. Nakamura, though, grabbed the bottom rope at 2.5 to kick out after that knee strike. Styles then hoisted Nakamura up onto his shoulders, and he hit a spinning rack slam or a rack bomb for a near fall. Styles then set up for a phenomenal forearm. Nakamura caught him on his shoulders before driving him to the mat, covered him for a 2 count. So Shinsuke then hit I have to say, a shitty-looking sling blade. And you know it was shitty because Wade Barrett tried to cover for it it was like a 5-second delay. And then Wade Barrett's like, there's a modified sling blade. That's the easiest way, by the way. Like if somebody hits something that doesn't look good, just say, oh, it's like a modified version. That's the way you cover for it. So both men got to their feet and traded kicks and punches. Nakamura headbutted Styles. He rolled him into an armbar. Styles rolled on top of him, got a 2 count, which forced Nakamura to release the hold. So Shinsuke went for a Kinshasa. Styles, though, blocked it. He tried to roll him into a calf crusher again. Nakamura rolled through, stood up, and drilled him with another knee. So Nakamura went for another Kinshasa. Styles moved, and Nakamura crashed into the corner. AJ charged him, and Nakamura sent him over the top to the apron. Styles wrenched Nakamura's leg over the top rope, and then he hit the phenomenal forearm, immediately transitioned into a Styles clash, which he attempted to go for the entire match. It was not until the very end that he finally was able to connect on the hold, and when he hit the move, that's what won him the match. So, at least in this case, now there were a lot of like back and forth knee strikes. It was just a very kind of hard-hitting, match, not like an Ilya Dragunov match where they're both bleeding when it's over. But it wasn't just like, oh, let's just hit our finishers over and over and over and kick out, right? Because that shit gets old after a while. We see so much of that. I liked, at least in this case, AJ must have gone for that Styles clash, I don't know, at least 3 times earlier in the match, could never do it. And when he finally gets it at the very end, that's the move that wins the match for him. And when it was over, it felt like these two had been in a fucking war. I mean, it felt like, okay, this guy had to really earn that win. Even though Nakamura has not really been booked in a way where I would say, not that some people wouldn't see him as someone with any credibility, but the way he's been booked on the main roster now for a few years, I wouldn't say that he's been booked as somebody that has a ton of credibility in the eyes of the fans. But it's almost like they were able to kind of roll back the hands of time here for one night. And this was fucking great. This was fantastic. And, AJ had the chance to go out there a few months ago in Perth. And him and John Cena at Crown Jewel, they were able to go out there and have one last classic together. The fans really responded to it, all the callbacks and everything, and just the atmosphere. And those two always had great chemistry in the ring, more so than AJ and Nakamura did, because again, they had some disappointing matches in WWE. I have, in all the times that I saw John Cena and AJ Styles one-on-one against each other in the ring, disappointing or underwhelming, those are not words I would use to describe any of their matches. They delivered every single time. I can't say that for AJ and Nakamura. But I was happy that AJ was able to get that one last classic with John Cena. And I'm happy that these two were able to go out there, considering some of the weaker matches they've had in years past together, and have what I would consider to be, if not the best match that they have had since the Tokyo Dome, the second best. I say that because their Money in the Bank match in 2018 was actually an excellent match. But it's been so long since I've seen it, I can't say for sure if this one tops the Money in the Bank match. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. So if this is not their best match since 2016, then it's their second best match. And I'm glad they had the chance, even on 24 hours notice, they put this together. I'm glad they had the chance to go out there and do it. It was back and forth all the way through. It was Nakamura's best match in years. That I can say. And, again, hopefully the first or second great match of this year, hopefully in a line of many more matches to come that AJ will have. That's the question, right? Because next weekend he's putting his career on the line against Gunther in Riyadh. And it's possible, at least, that it could be his last match. I refuse to believe that's the case. I can't see it. I can't see 7 more days, and guess what? That's it. The retirement run of AJ Styles has come to an end. I just think that would be absolutely ridiculous. But when the match was over, one more cool thing. They paid respect to each other. They were on their knees. We got the fist bump again. They recreated the fist bump from Wrestle Kingdom when they were in the ring, on their knees, put the fist out. The other one puts the fist out. Just this great visual. They gave it to us again here. And then they embraced. So I thought that was just a great cherry on the sundae there at the end. But now we wait to see what happens in the rematch with AJ and Gunther. Can't be the end. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. There's just so many reasons. There's so many reasons to not believe that next weekend will be the last match of AJ Styles. I don't see him having his retirement match in Riyadh, number one. Number two, it's the first PLE of the year. I'm not saying he's going to wrestle for the entire year, but you're this close to WrestleMania. You mean to tell me you're not going to get AJ Styles one more WrestleMania match? The fuck out of here. Get out of here. Main event of this show. The short card. We're already at the main event. Main event was a fatal four-way number one contenders match for the WWE Championship with the winner challenging Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble. Randy Orton, Damian Priest, who came into this match with stitches in his mouth from his match last night, Trick Williams, and Sami Zayn. Sami, of course, got the biggest reaction of everybody who came out. Trick Williams, though, was right behind him. Everyone's going, whoop that trick, whoop that trick. He got the second, I want to say second best, because Randy Orton, of course, got a great reaction as well. But the fans were very animated for Trick's entrance. Trick Williams got a bigger reaction coming out than Damian Priest did. Think about that. The other thing I love also, I love how every time Randy Orton is out there, when Trick Williams is out there, he's always vibing to his theme music. He's always like bouncing up and down, whoop that trick, right? Every single, even last night. The way they ended SmackDown last night, they made you think that Trick Williams was going to be the last man standing, right? That was going to be the parting shot of SmackDown. And then Randy Orton snuck up behind him, hitting RKO. I saw a fan video from someone in the front row, right where Orton rolled out from under the ring as Trick was posing, looking at the hard cam. And he rolls out from under the ring. They're playing Trick's music. And before he gets into the ring, Randy's looking at the crowd and he's vibing. He's vibing, man. He's vibing to the music to the point where I thought, because the fans were already reacting, right? Oh my God, it's Randy Orton. I was fearing, and I had already seen the show, so I know this didn't happen, but I'm watching the fan video and I'm like, he's lucky that Trick didn't turn around too early. You know, now I'm sure one of the referees outside gave him his cue, like, okay, turn around. But if he was going based on crowd reaction, like Randy almost lost himself there for a second, where instead of getting right into the ring and sneaking up behind him, he was like vibing to the music. It would have been funny if Trick just turned around expecting to eat an RKO, and instead he just sees Randy dancing outside the ring. He was doing the same thing tonight, though. Oh, man. So the bell rang, and Williams immediately bailed out to the floor. Orton went for an early RKO. He missed. He sent Priest out. That left Orton and Zayn to kick things off officially. Williams grabbed Zayn by the ankle. He dragged him out of the ring. Orton followed. He took out Trick. And then Priest launched himself. He got a running start, and he launched himself off the ring steps, and he took out Orton and Trick. So this is how this match started. In the ring, a little bit later on, Williams caught Sami with a spin kick. That allowed Priest to slam Trick. Priest then set up Sami for a pile driver. Zayn countered out with the tornado DDT. I think this might have been the spot. He kind of slipped a little bit in the ropes, but hit the DDT fine. Then Sami caught a returning Orton with a Blue Thunder Bomb attempt. Orton blocked it, landed a power slam. So there was a Blue Thunder Bomb, though, on Orton that followed for a 2 count. Orton crawled to the corner. Sami charged in for the Haluva kick. Trick Williams, though, interrupted things. Priest followed Williams out of the ring. Trick, though, hit a bookend. I'll call it a bookend because I know Booker T is a big fan of Trick. hit a bookend to Damian Priest on the top part of the Timekeeper's barricade. So then after this, the spot was that he brings Priest over. They're still outside the ring, but he brings him over towards the ring, right? So if you're looking with the hard cam view, they're right there outside the ring. And Sami Zayn is going to do a flip dive out over the top onto both of them. He's going to wipe both of them out. Sami does the flip dive and basically like barely even touches the two of them. He basically right on his tailbone just splats on the floor. And they both fall down and sell it anyway. Zayn gets back into the ring. He hits Priest with an exploder in the corner. Zayn follows up with a haluva kick. He had Priest pinned. Trick Williams, though, pulls the referee, Ryan Tran, out of the ring. And now, Tran is looking at him and he's yelling at him, "What are you doing? You can't do that." And they're just, they're jaw-jacking back and forth outside the ring. So Orton then slams all three opponents, one and right after the other, on the top part of the announce desk. And that left all of them down on the floor. Orton picks up Trick. He dumps him on the table again before rolling him back inside. Now Orton enters the ring. And Trick scampers off onto the other side. Out on the other side. Sami rolls up Orton, though, for a 2 count. Orton charges Sami. He moves. Orton crashes and burns in the corner. Posts himself. Sami then goes up top. He had to jump over a charging Orton. He avoided the RKO. He shoved off. And then he tried for a haluva kick, but Orton dropped him with the RKO. But here comes Trick Williams to throw Randy Orton out of the ring. He is going to try to steal the pin. But Damian Priest returns to the ring and he breaks up the pin attempt. So now Orton hits a double draping DDT on Trick and on Priest. And then Orton strikes the Viper's pose. And he is getting set up for the RKO. Trick, though, shoves him towards Damian Priest, who hits a South of Heaven chokeslam. Trick again unsuccessfully tries to steal the pin. Sami returns. He goes for a haluva kick. Trick avoids it. And Trick goes up. Zayn cuts him off, and he joins Trick on the ropes. Damian Priest then sneaks up behind Sami Zayn, and he grabs him by the arms, and he delivers a razor's edge. Trick now is standing on the apron, and he took a swing. Priest ducked. Priest then delivered a high kick to knock Trick to the floor, but then Sami Zayn, out of nowhere, comes charging into the corner with a haluva kick to Damian Priest, and he pins Damian Priest to become the #1 contender for the WWE Championship. As Sami is celebrating his win, they show his wife and his son looking on in the front row. He's on the ropes. He's celebrating. Here comes Drew McIntyre. We saw him earlier in the night. Drew McIntyre, he sneaks into the ring. He tries to ambush Sami. Sami's able to avoid it. And he sends McIntyre immediately back out to the floor. Drew then immediately picks up his belt and he leaves. So not much of an ambush attempt. Just like that, Drew McIntyre's attempt has been foiled. And that is how the show ended. So I thought it was a good main event. It was not my favorite thing on the show tonight, but I thought kept a very good pace as far as the match. It was never, there was never a dull moment in this match. Everybody had, ample time to shine and have their spots and get their shit in. This was Trick's first big match on the main roster. He's only been up for about a month. And at this point, he's had, I think, a couple of TV matches. His second main event, by the way. He was in the main event last night against Damian Priest. And he was in the main event tonight against Damian Priest. And Randy Orton and Sami Zayn. So he hasn't been up for very long. He never felt out of place. He actually fits in quite well. So the finish, predictable, right? I mean, most people, I would imagine, figured Sami Zayn was going to win. It was really one of two names. It was either Randy Orton or it was Sami Zayn. Trick Williams had no chance. Damian Priest, honestly, had no chance. He really didn't. So it was either going to be Orton or Sami, with the idea that if it was Orton, that would have made Sami one of the top 3 favorites to win the Royal Rumble match. But it just felt to me like he's not going to WrestleMania this year. There's a much better chance if Sami Zayn is going to finish his story and get his moment and finally become a world champion that it happens in Riyadh next year at WrestleMania. But in Riyadh this year, he gets his shot and he loses again. He loses again, and it just feeds into the larger story, and they save the payoff for later on, probably next year. Because right now it's just not time. It's not his time yet. The one thing I will say, though, I said earlier there was one thing that surprised me about this match. Sami winning, figured that out already. I thought for sure Sami was going to pin Trick to win this match. The fact that they wouldn't even pin Trick in a four-way like this with some big names and they pin Priest says a lot. It says a lot, more so about just what they think of Trick Williams, but also it says, I think, it says something about where Damian Priest is. Because this is a company that they go to painstaking lengths to protect people to the point where they don't need to be that protected. Like, there are people on the roster who are over enough where if you beat them every now and then, if you pin them cleanly every now and then, it will not be a killer for their career. Cody is one of those people. Rhea Ripley is one of those. But like, you can find people like that, and they didn't go out of their way to protect Damian Priest. They're like, yeah, you're taking the pin. We're not even going to beat the new guy. We're going to beat you though. It's okay. And I think that says a lot. It's sad because Priest comes out, he's not getting the reactions that these other guys are getting. And I've said this has been a problem since he came to SmackDown, since he left the Judgment Day. And he left Monday Night Raw. He was still super over on Raw. Once they moved him to SmackDown, which I thought would be a good move, get him away from the Judgment Day. And hopefully he can become one of the top names, like truly top 3 or 4 names on that brand. And it hasn't clicked yet. It just hasn't clicked. Now, last year, he didn't get a lot of ring time. If you go back and look at his stats, I talked about this in the Sound Off, I think a couple months ago. The number of matches that he had in 2024 as compared to the number of matches he had in 2025, huge difference. And then he finally commented on it. He was on a podcast and he said, I'm beat up. My knees and this and that, my back. It's not like any one injury, but he's been very beat up, or at least last year he was. So they were trying to protect him from himself, and they kept him out of the ring a lot. So he wasn't wrestling a lot. The feud with Aleister Black, it was a dud. I mean, I thought it was boring. Some guys bring the best out of each other and some guys don't. And I don't think that feud really did either of those guys any favors. It gave them something to do on TV, but I don't really see how it benefited either one of them. And Priest won the ambulance match. But what good did it do him? He's not over at the same level that he was on Raw. It feels like it's time to really consider moving him back into the heel column. One of the things I've talked about lately is that SmackDown especially on the heel side, they are in dire need of some top heels on SmackDown. That's why I floated the idea of moving someone like Powerhouse Hobbs, into that spot, sending him right to the main roster. And I think he could really be someone who could potentially help on that side. But if you turn Damian Priest heel, I think just given the state of things on SmackDown, that would probably be the better way to go. You got to try something different. It just feels like it's not working. You can't tell me that they didn't expect him to be at a level higher than where he currently is on that SmackDown roster. It's something is missing. Whether it's making him a heel and not a babyface, whether it's pairing him off again with someone or another group, I don't know. But there's definitely something that's missing there. But top to bottom, again, best Saturday night's main event that they have done since the reboot. Yeah, it's weapon time. It's weapon time. Yeah, that didn't help. I think you're right about that. That did not help. Oh, he's got a great voice. He's got a voice he's got a voice that reminds me of Samoa Joe and Loki, in that I think he would be a great voice actor. But we're not talking about voice acting. We're talking about wrestling, and we're trying to heat this guy up so he could be a bigger player on SmackDown. But yes, I think he has a good voice for voice acting and commercials. So anyway, not a terribly important show. I wouldn't call this an important show, but I thought it was a fine 2 hours, especially after that terrible 3 hours that we got last night. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of Saturday night's main event here from Montreal? Now the question is, who has the better voice of the two of us? Is it Damian Priest or is it the Solomonster? I'll leave that up to you. What did you think of this show? Thumbs up, 76.4% thumbs up, 14% thumbs in the middle, and 9.6% thumbs down. It's much better than the score from last night. I'll tell you that much. I don't remember that. What was the score? I don't even think we hit 40% thumbs up for SmackDown last night. Anyway, if you want to vote on X, it is at Solomonster, and that is where you guys can go. Let me scroll back here so we can open up these super chats. There we go. I had to get them open first. Oh, there they are. There they are. Solo Tone. Faux show. Thank you, Leopoldo. Yeah, it was. It was 39%. It was 39% thumbs up last night. Joseph Stewart, back with us again for another night. Joseph, I hope you're having a good Saturday, and it's not going to be snowing too badly where you are. It says, Frank Langella as Skeletor or Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Well, I thought they both did a fine job in their respective roles, but I got to go Jack. Got to go Jack as the Joker. Jurassic Park or Godzilla? Jurassic Park. Are you a fan of Dragon Ball Z? No. It says He-Man or Luke Skywalker. He-Man. Skeletor or Darth Vader? See, I'm going to piss a lot of people off when I say this. Skeletor. And Tila. And Man-at-Arms. And Orko. Orko over Yoda all day long. And Evelyn. As you can tell, Joseph, it's Masters of the Universe for me over Star Wars. Did I used to own the Castle Grayskull toy set as a kid? I probably did. I honestly don't remember. I'm trying to think if I had that one. I had the Ghostbusters Firehouse, and I had the April O'Neil news van. So I probably did have that. Have I seen the Mel Brooks movie Dracula? Dead and Loving It with Leslie Nielsen. Yes. Yes, it was quite funny. Power Rangers? Nah, I didn't really pay much attention to it when it first came out. Do I miss the WWF Livewire show that used to come on Saturday mornings? I missed some of the phone calls. Whatever happened to Bruce from Connecticut? That's what I want to know. Demolition Man or Judge Dredd? Demolition Man. Stallone or Lundgren? Stallone. I remember the scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit when Christopher Lloyd turned into a tune. Yes, I do. Why did Macho Man and Gorgeous George disappear from WCW television after Vince Russo came in? I don't remember exactly why. I don't know if it was just an injury or just Russo. He was probably moving away from using some of those guys. He was at least making an attempt to use some of the younger talents, but just some of the things he was doing with them were ridiculous. Have I seen the movie Total Recall? Of course. Who hasn't? Who hasn't? 454, by the way, on the likes, so we'll do Be the Booker here in a moment. He says, I'll be watching Empire Strikes Back tonight. Well, I hope you're watching it after the stream and not before. But Joseph, thank you, as always. Enjoy the Empire Striking Back, which I have never seen. We got dried ribs and chicken. Logan Paul. Logan Paul. The big defender of Triple H. Says the cult of Papa H soldiers are worse than the TNA soldier. Oh, you say that, but you didn't experience the TNA soldiers. Soldiers, like I did back in the day. I'll never forget the general, the colonel, whatever he was with the furry hat. Don't ask. If you weren't around for that whole fiasco, don't even ask. Those were fun times, though. We need Dark Alexa, aka Twisted Bliss, back to the dark side soon. Do we? Dried ribs and chicken after watching WWE Unreal Season 2.
My curiosity is killing me just like a cat would be killed by the curiosity.
Somebody mentioned the Macho Man. There he is. After watching WWE Unreal Season 2, I said it before and I'll say it again. After WrestleMania, Road Dogg, Bruce Pritchard, Michael Hayes should be given their flowers and fruit baskets and part ways with WWE. Well, that's not going to happen. They are embedded in the system. We got Big Money Jackson. Is that the Boss Mo Jackson? I don't know. Says at this point, I'm expecting another bad year for WWE. You're expecting a bad year for WWE? I hope not. I've got a lot of WWE television I got to watch this year. Although if it's as bad as it was last night, in that final hour, or 90 minutes or so, could make for some entertaining content. Says, also looking forward to Masters of the Universe this summer. Yeah, I think it comes out, is it June 5th? It's, I think in June. I think that comes out in June. PJK says, I dislike Unreal. A lot of people do. Jackson, Big Money Jackson says, Riptide is a weak move. Also, sloppiness and sluggishness is becoming a regular thing in WWE matches. At this point, NXT is better than the main roster. The main roster sucks big time. Says Nakamura is the Japanese Michael Jackson. Well, that was his inspiration. There's a reason why you see some Michael Jackson in Shinsuke Nakamura when he comes out. Holiday 197 says, hey, Solo, it seems like we may get a triple threat now between Drew, Cody, and Jacob. Looking forward to the match. The question is, do they pull the trigger and put the title on Jacob? I'd love it. I'd love it. But if the choice is, Cody and Drew, or Cody, Drew, or the two of them doing something, like, you can't do Cody and Drew one-on-one again at WrestleMania. You can't do that. You can't do that. You got to have Jacob in there. You got to have Jacob, Orton. You got to have somebody else in there with them. Jackson says, AJ against Nakamura, best match I've seen in a while. It was quite good. Cheza says, do you think they changed Gunther's name because Walter is the guy in Breaking Bad cooking meth? No, I don't. I don't think that had anything to do with it. St. Clair says, random question, but do you think Rhino could have been a solid mid-card heel champion in WWE, aside from the U.S. title run during the invasion? I do. I think he absolutely could have been. Mid-card, like upper mid-card. And Big Money Jackson says, I love Fatal 4-Ways, and this match is fire. GMB is with us. I miss Bianca so much. Hope she's cleared. You and me both. Can't believe it's almost been a year. The Italian Stallion says, hey, Solomonster, what do you think of Unreal show? It's strange because it's interesting to watch and see what goes on. However, it has destroyed the business for me, even though we already knew. Yeah, I kind of just take it for what it is. I don't think that everything you see on that show is real. You know, you can kind of watch certain things and suspect, is this being manufactured for a certain reason? And then other things, you know, come across very real. Like the stuff with Lyra, especially when she shit the bed with Becky and they had that match at SummerSlam. She was very upset about that. Chelsea. You know, there's some people who come across well, others who do not. I'll save it for a more, not even in depth. I mean, I'm not done yet watching the last episode, so I'm probably not going to review it on the podcast tomorrow. But when I'm done with Unreal, I'll give you my thoughts on the season overall. As far as, you know, do I hate it? I don't hate it. I don't love it. I take it for what it is. I enjoy parts of it. I dislike other parts of it. My feelings so far on season 2 are not unlike my feelings for season 1. They're really not radically different. Base Beer says, I missed the show. I need a review. Well, it's a good thing somebody is talking about the show tonight on YouTube. Lucky for you. Italian Stallion says that this show was useless and a waste of my time. However, I'll just leave it at that because I'm not a wrestler. So I have to sit down, cross my legs, and be quiet. That's right. That's right. You better listen to Moose. Hey, Paul, what's going on? Last 3 matches played out better than anticipated. The last 3 matches? You mean the only 3 matches? It's like, technically we didn't have that 4th match tonight because the bell never rang. Why do you do the intro before coming on screen? Is it to allow more viewers a chance to join? I thought people already kind of knew this. It just seems so obvious to me, but I have to constantly explain this to people. Yes, it is the difference between if I just literally come on screen and so, hi guys, and just go right into the fucking review. It's the difference between having 100 people or having 600 people. I would much rather have 500 or 600 people at the beginning, and then it grows from there, but at least I have those 500 when I'm getting into the early part of the review, and have people come in and go, oh shit, I got to start from the beginning. You know, and I try to keep it to 3 or 4 minutes max. I don't think that's unreasonable, but apparently some people, and not you, but you should see some of these fucking comments I get. Holy shit. Their time is so precious. I know. But yes, that's why it's done that way. Dried ribs and chicken. If Cody Rhodes would ever turn heel, I hope its characteristics has inspirations of Homelander, Dr. Doom, and Harvey Dent. I mean, that's a lot of different characters there that you just named. I mean, so is he going to have half his face is going to be painted? He'll have the Dr. Doom hood. And then Homelander, is that The Boys? Is that show The Boys? I haven't seen it yet. I don't know too much about Homelander. We've got Duff's Vids. Is UFC competing with WWE now? Saturday night's main event versus UFC 324 and Royal Rumble against UFC 325 next Saturday. Has this happened before? If so, why? I'm watching both. I feel like usually they try to avoid each other, but honestly, I mean, and again, I'm not a huge, maybe you're a bigger MMA fan than I am, but like UFC just fucking sucks now, dude. Like, UFC ain't what it used to be. I don't hear as many people even talking about it anymore. Like, who are the stars? Like, who are the big names right now in UFC? Who are the big attractions in UFC? I don't think there's a whole lot of competition going on there right now. Phil says, hi, Solo. Hope you're staying warm in the storm. I skipped Saturday night's main event to watch the AAA show instead. What did I miss? You missed some good matches. You should go back and check them out. Yeah, I think that AAA show was taped, right? I don't think it was live tonight. I think it was taped last week. They have their weekly show now on Fox in Mexico, which WWE so far has been streaming on their YouTube channel this week. This week and last week. UFC is in its 2004 SmackDown era. Are we sure? It's not more like a 1995 WWF era? Well, at least they got their $7 billion from Paramount, so they're happy. Alexander says, Drew McIntyre needs to come out to Broken Dreams. He did a few years ago. He's probably not going back to it. Hey, Justin, what's going on? 1999 Super Chat. No question, just showing love. Keep up the great job. Hey, I appreciate that, Justin. That's very kind of you. Thank you. MLK010. My predictions for the final two for both the Rumble matches are LA Knight and Braun Breaker for the men, Bianca and Sol Ruca for the women's. There you go. Not bad. Bobby Means, a triple threat at Mania makes sense to me. You cannot have Cody and Drew one-on-one again. Now when it comes to the Rumble, I think Braun should win it. It would be nice to have a newer name who hasn't won it already. Leopoldo. AJ's mask was badass. Love that he wore it tonight. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Also, Shin not tapping to Calf Crusher should have been at WrestleMania 34. And Graytan, Jobs and more. Fatu is looking amazing since his return. Yeah, I think he slimmed down a little bit more. That's probably why he had the shirt off when he came out. It's good to have him back in the ring, and it's good to have him in that top mix, and I hope he stays there. Holiday 197. Unfortunately, I have a feeling AJ's last match will be at the Rumble. It would mark 10 years since his WWE debut and likely be the end of his current contract, and they'll want to give the Saudis a big moment on the show. I don't give a shit. Fuck their big moment. Next weekend can't be the end. You're going to start the year and then just boot him out of there. We literally last month, we had John Cena's final match. So you mean to tell me that 1 month later is when AJ checks out? With WrestleMania right around the corner? I can't accept that. Jamie Dorsch, is a no DQ match and a no holds barred match the same thing, or is there a difference? There is no difference. They are the exact same thing. We got Dallas Caballero. Says, the next WWE game is Attitude Era / Monday Night War themed. That was 28 years ago. When are we going to move on? It's like in 98, reminiscing about the San Martino era. I think it just goes to show how many eras we've gone through since then, and how many shitty years we've had. They haven't all been shitty, but for so long it felt like they were trying to chase that same, success that they had, but they couldn't quite take it as far as they did, because there's a lot of bad stuff in the Attitude Era too. But it's just one of those things where, they had Austin and Rock, lightning in a bottle. You're never going to have that again. You're never going to have an era in this company where you have two huge stars, two huge baby faces that just strike fucking gold simultaneously the way that you did with those two. They got so lucky. And you know who they have to thank for that? Jim Ross. Because he's the one who recruited both of them. But it was them, and of course everything else. It just came together. It was just the perfect storm. The competition from WCW, it motivated them to be better and to be, a little more open to trying out new things. And we had, the NWO and everything else. It was just like, you can't recreate that. You can't manufacture that. They've been chasing that ever since. I mean, any way they can milk it, believe me, they're going to do it. They know that if they build this game around the Attitude Era and the Monday Night War, it's still going to sell. Of course it's always going to sell. They've been romanticizing that era for so many years. Hey, Jake, what's going on? Big Money Jackson says, yes, the Boss Mo Jackson is now Big Money Jackson. Okay, good to know. And Michael Miranda with the 10 spot, no message, just showing some love. Hey, Michael, I appreciate that. Thank you, brother. Leopoldo says, right now would be a good time for Punk to join UFC. Yeah, I think that would be a pretty terrible idea, actually. And Duff's Vid says, I gotta say, I haven't watched UFC since the mid to late 2000s. And tonight's UFC 1 for me had blood. Well, I mean, I'd imagine most of them had blood. It had blood on SmackDown last night from Ilya Dragunov. Main event intro's going on now, and one guy cut a promo after his win, kind of like Macho Man. Well, if you're going to copy anyone's promos, Macho Man would be a good one to learn from. For Punk to get his 2 wins back. You could send Punk back to the UFC, and instead of getting his 2 wins back, he'll have 4 losses. Okay? So that's just a bad idea. Let's take our world heavyweight champion and send him back to the UFC. You think the shoulder demon is bad. You'll have to deal with the shoulder demon, the knee demon, the neck demon, the ankle demon. They're all going to attack him all at once. Remember the movie Ghost? At the end of the movie when they take the guy, the friend, and all like the black evil spirits from hell, they all like grab him and they take him away. That's going to be all the demons taking Punk away. All right, well, we smashed the likes goal, which means that I owe you a round of Be the Booker. We had 2 of them last night. We got 1 of them tonight, so let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
the whole body. Forget the shoulder demon. It'll be the body demon. Every part of his body will be broken. What did I think of the Mordecai character? Not really a fan. Not that it had a whole lot of time to play out on TV, but yeah, I'm not really a fan. All right, we got the APA. If you're looking for some protection, you don't go with Trojan. You go with the APA. Farouk and Bradshaw. Nick Aldis calls for you to add a stipulation. We're already starting with the stipulation. This is what happened last night. We actually ended up with I think a double sweep last night. Last night, the 2 rounds turned into something very interesting. All right, so we got to pick a stipulation here for this APA tag team match. They're going to be in Full Metal Mayhem. It is a Full Metal Mayhem match. Farouk and Bradshaw against Kane and The Big Show in Full Metal Mayhem. Now, if this was the APA against Kane and Big Show, not a fan. Kane and Big Show against the APA with ladders and stuff, that at least makes it a little more interesting. I'll allow it. At least we got a stipulation in there. But the idea of either one of these guys climbing the ladder is just ridiculous. They can use them as weapons. Climbing, though, that's a different story. We have Sky Blue, who we actually landed on just last night, I believe. It was wasn't it Sky Blue against Meiko Satomura last night? She's back again. She's back for more. Sky Blue. Gonna be taking on Tiffany Stratton, who I suspect we will see back in the Royal Rumble. Apparently, she's been dealing with an injury of some kind, but I would imagine if it was a serious injury that was going to keep her out for a long time, we would have heard about that. All right, well, we're 2 for 2. I can't say it's an enthusiastic 2 for 2, but we are 2 for 2 so far. Let me get one more. Let's see how we can end things here. Fine start. We have our Samoan named Joe, who looks like he's in a foul mood. He always looks like he's in a foul mood. Samoa Joe. She's been dealing with the shoulder demon, probably, like everybody else. Oh my God. Samoa Joe against Bret the Hitman Hart. I do believe for the first time in Be the Booker history, we have had three straight rounds, back-to-back nights of Be the Booker that are a clean sweep. Never been done before. 3 rounds in a row. Yeah, but you talk about matches that would have been cool to see that we missed out on. Bret Hart and Samoa Joe. I feel like those two would work very well together. I do. They would work very well together. Joe versus Bret. Bret versus a lot of guys. None more so than Kurt Angle, but that's a match I would have loved to have seen. I bet Bret would hate Joe, says BlissFan. Why would he? Joe doesn't chop people any more so than anybody else does. I think he would like Joe. Imagine Joe doing the nope spot to Bret. It'd be priceless. Joe taps out. Well, he doesn't have to tap out. Bret found different ways to beat people. He didn't always tap them out in the sharpshooter. It's one of the things I loved about Bret. Even the night he won King of the Ring, he won 3 different matches in the same night. Not one of them did he win with a sharpshooter. I'm sure he would find a way. He would find a way to beat Joe. You will find something about Joe to hate and give him time. Did Bret have beef with Joe over Tyson Kidd? I don't remember, actually, if he did. I actually don't remember, but that I would not be holding Joe responsible for that. Even I think Tyson Kidd has said that was just a culmination of years of bumps and then just one wrong bump at the wrong time, and that was a bad injury. I think he said that he was in the 5% he was told that he was in the 5% of people who actually survive that kind of injury. It was almost like an internal decapitation or something. Like it was a really, really bad injury. It's a good thing he didn't, get carried away the way that those idiots carried that UFC fighter off the stage the other day during the weigh-ins when he collapsed from the weight cut. Did you see that video? That was scary. This guy weighed in, and he gets off the scale, And he goes to walk off stage and he kind of stumbles a little bit and he just collapses face first. Somehow he only ended up with stitches in his chin. He's lucky he didn't knock all of his teeth out. But he just collapsed face first. This guy, I don't know what he was trying to weigh in at and what he weighed before, but like this weight cutting is just ridiculous. It's just out of control. But then like he's laying there for a while and eventually he sits up because he's dehydrated. And he sits up, but then he ends up back down on the ground again. And these fucking schmucks, they pick him up. His body is limp. His neck is like swinging around all over the place. And they carry him off the stage. Like, that's not how you're supposed to do it. Because you don't know if he suffered some sort of, neck injury when he fell initially. So at least stabilize the person's neck. No, we'll just pick him up. Body's limp. Just carry him off the stage. Imagine if they carried Tyson Kidd out of the ring like that. He would have been dead before he even got to the back. Fucking idiots. Hey, Griga, thank you for the gifted membership. It says $5 super chat from Griga, just showing some love, Solo. Thank you, Griga. Super Pony says Joe Goldberg. If you know, you know. Joe Goldberg? Are you talking about Mike Goldberg? Or is there some joke here that I'm not aware of? Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me here on a Saturday night. Tomorrow is Sound Off episode 948. Got a lot of ground to cover. We'll talk more about the fallout from Saturday night's main event, but I will have my predictions for the Royal Rumble. There was also a death in the wrestling family, a legend this week. I will talk about him as well on the podcast. I will give my thoughts, my honest thoughts on the entire Trey Miguel situation and what happened there. And there's a bunch of other things too. There was an AEW story in the Hollywood Reporter about some stuff in terms of Warner Brothers Discovery. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. So you'll want to tune in for this show tomorrow. That'll be episode 948. Hey, Navy 4181, watching Michael Hayes take credit for producing a match is like a little brother thinking he beat a video game while his controller was unplugged. Well, at least he wears a funny hat. So there is that. That wasn't even the most offensive thing that Michael Hayes said on Unreal. I talked a little bit about what I thought that was last night on the stream. And whenever I get around to talking about Unreal, I'm sure I'll bring it up again. But that wasn't even the most offensive thing.
My curiosity is killing me just like a cat would be killed by the curiosity, yeah.
Hey, Thunder Force. Well, Duff says, if you can get a free trial of Paramount Plus, or if you have it, give UFC a chance, Solo. Yeah. I did, actually, my brother was on there, and he was looking for some older fights, and apparently they don't even have the full library up. They're supposed to have all, I think, the classic fights and everything, and it's only partial. He was looking for certain, like, old events, and they're not even up. It's probably like the WWE thing, where they're not putting the whole library up. They're going to just cherry pick shit. Or they're just not going to put the whole thing up. I think that's ridiculous. If you're paying for UFC, you should get the whole thing. But Thunder Force says, for me, the worst time WWE was when being overprotective with their talents was during the golden era due to the number of DQs and countouts that occurred even on pay-per-view. Dude, it was, I'll tell you how out of control it was. Because I've seen it on the Vault. They upload a lot of Coliseum home videos. These are Coliseum videos, right? This is not even airing on television. And if I tell you the number of matches where guys just get counted out, they just leave the ring and they walk out and they get counted out. It's just ridiculous. It's the point of absurdity. They were like allergic to clean finishes in matches. Like, Is it really going to kill Hacksaw Jim Duggan to lose a fucking match? Really? So you're not wrong about that. They were terrified, either terrified of beating people or just people just were refusing to lose. But even I feel like even if you look at some of the WrestleManias, you know, like on the undercard, some of those matches and some of the finishes, like in the early WrestleManias, it's just ridiculous. All right, be well. Stay safe. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for hanging out with me here on a Saturday in whatever part of the country or the storm sphere you may be in right now. Just stay safe with the weather. It's going to get nasty. It's going to get nasty these next couple of days. Toya says, I'm here. I'm drunk while I'm here. Hi, Solo. You must be, because you've stumbled in here at the very end. Thank you, Toya. And Leopoldo, why is Solo such a punk hater? One UFC win, LOL. Yeah, that's always my favorite thing. Why are you so mean to CM Punk? What did he ever do to you? Yeah. Devin. What kind of heel does Solo like more? Funny, entertaining, love to hate heels like The Rock, or traditional, serious, no-nonsense heels like Triple H? Well, I like Triple H. I like The Rock over Triple H, so I was going to say traditional, more serious, no-nonsense heels, but given the examples that you listed there, I would take The Rock over Triple H, so I don't know what to think now. I have to reevaluate my whole life now. I'm not sure. Super Pony, how do you hate Punk so much? I know. How is it possible? For me, it is because Punk is a Blackhawks fan. Yeah, Triple H 2000 into 2001 was the best version of Triple H. I've always said that. Always said that, always will. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Hit that like button on your way out if you have not already done so. In a week where we hit 90K, thank you very much. Live Monday night, back here for the Raw post show. And then, of course, we got the Royal Rumble coming up. So let's end the month strong. I can't do it without you. I will see you guys then and tomorrow for 9:48. Until then, take care, guys.